Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
On this issue, tax.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And amidst a sea of trade agreements and an almost mad rush to raise funding for our near empty coffers, to discuss this matter and more is the news editor of the Island newspaper, Mr. Shamindra Ferdinando. Very good morning to you, Shamindra.
Good morning, Faraz.
And your journey here has been uneventful today?
Yes, you take public transport.
But good, the roads are all working, aren't they?
Certainly. The road built by the former president,
yes.
Government.
So this is what happens when you have good government, with good plans put into action. Now then, the Prime Minister of India has arrived in the country and gone back. No sooner did that happen, our Prime Minister was in China. And soon after that, the Lanka reports that the President is not in agreement with the concessions being given on the Hambantota port. And then we have also the information before all that the GSP Plus has been granted. Let's start with the GSP Plus. How important was that for Sri Lanka?
It's very important for us. The EU deprived Sri Lanka of GSP Plus after the end of the war.
Was that unreasonable?
Certainly. It was a political decision. It was meant to punish the previous government. So
because they didn't play ball because they were not
EU,
accountable?
certainly. If the previous government agreed to hold the war and resume talks with the LTT, I am sure the EU would not have suspended GSP Plus. And don't forget that the EU also stopped buying our fish, our exports.
Was that also part of this sort of I shall punish you syndrome, or was that because there was a genuine technical problem in the way that we were processing and exporting our fish?
No, for us, you know that the previous government, I'm sure, was responsible for some excesses, certainly. But the international community, the Western powers, punished Sri Lanka for refusing to stop the offensive against LTT. That's the main issue. Because now you take this ban on fish exports.
Yeah.
They blamed Sri Lanka for not operating Sri Lanka's fishing fleet in accordance with international standards. So we were punished. After this government came into power, they restored it. But hundreds of Indian trawlers poach in our waters every week, hundreds. Have they taken any action against India, or have they at least raised the issue? No. So
is that the big business syndrome? You know, if you're big, you're untouchable. If you're small, you can be trampled upon.
Certainly for us. I mean, it's happening. I mean, we pay.
Does India have GSP Plus?
No. I mean, other matters like now, if the EU feels that Sri Lanka is not operating the fishing fleet in line with international standards, right? So then that rule must apply to India also, because India poach in our waters regularly. I mean, almost on a daily basis, hundreds of boats.
But we could even leave GSP Plus aside and then just look purely at the issue of fishing.
No, for us it's a political issue. I mean, the Western powers took a series of actions against Sri Lanka during the previous administration. The main reason was the previous government did not stop the offensive against LTT. I mean, if you stop the offensive, and if the previous government, if the previous president resumed talks with LTT, they would have
But actually, when one examines the whole scenario, India, together with the US and other allies, actually worked in a crazy sort of way. They were responsible, along with other forces, for the finishing of the war. The beneficiary, if you look at it individually, the principal beneficiary, on a political scale at least, was MR. How do you counter that argument?
For us, during the Elam War 4, India certainly helped Sri Lanka. Certainly helped. And the US also helped. The US provided the required intelligence to the Sri Lankan Navy to hunt down those LTD ships. So there was help. There was no doubt about that.
Do you think the US are being brutally frank about what happened?
Where?
Towards the end of the war? Because if you remember, after the end of the war, maybe a year or two ago, the US Embassy put out a photograph of some playground in Jaffna, and the caption accompanying the photograph released by the US Information Services was that this was the site of a big massacre. And no matter what our foreign ministry said, the Americans did not sort of change their description. It was just there. So it leads me to think that the Americans are not going to make flippant statements, so that there was they had some basis upon which they made that.
Of course, I mean, during the war, the civilians died. But it was not the policy of the government of Sri Lanka to target civilians. Right? There was no order from the president or the army headquarters to kill civilians. But of course, people died due to military action. And I must also tell you that photograph, if you say it's Jaffna, I'm not sure whether it's Jaffna, because for us, Jaffna was brought under control during former President Chandrika Kumar's time. So Jaffna was under control by December 1995, right? So
it couldn't have been that.
It can't be. So, but maybe some other place. But of course, a number of Tamil civilians died. But I'm sure, I'm 100%
number
sure
of Sri Lankan civilians
died. There's no basis for this allegation that 40,000 people were killed.
No, but let's move on. We sort of digressed from this GSP Plus, because what I wanted really to find out from you was GSP Plus, good work from the foreign ministry?
Certainly.
And Mangala Samrira and especially the young Harshad Silva, with all his energy, has managed to get the European Union thinking that Sri Lanka is actually making an effort. Now then, but how important is it? GSP Plus is going to be sort of phased out anyway in just over a year, isn't it? About 2 years.
But for us, it's a victory for this government.
Of course, we mustn't take that away.
So they worked hard. So I think the country should appreciate that.
But is it in terms financially, is it a good early warning system for our economy, for Sri Lanka's exporters, that this thing is only there for a time period and it will be taken away, and so in this period that they should use it to become more mean and lean in effect?
Certainly for us, because we must remember, we must very clearly, we must know that the decision to withdraw GSP Plus, suspend, it was political decision.
Right.
And to restore it is also political decision.
Yes.
Right. For Western powers, for EU, as long as a particular government toe their line.
But we have...
They don't care for us. They don't care. I mean, Western powers have backed worst dictators in the world. Right. But the dictators, those dictators must work with Western powers.
You're not suggesting, are you? Suggesting that Sri Lanka had dictators in the past? Was MR a dictator?
Certainly not. Certainly not.
Right. Well, the thing is this. It may have been political, that's an argument, and to restore is also political, that's another argument. But the effect is hard cash.
It's tangible, yes.
Yes, but so and this is going to be taken out anyway, it's coming to a natural end. So by that time, what should the Sri Lankan exporters do? Shouldn't they become more productive? Shouldn't their production costs come down? Shouldn't they be better at their finished products and so on? Or is it all about the list of achieving? Should we use this period to achieve the requirements that the European Union posed on us? There's a whole list of conditions, about 14,
yes,
16 conditions.
Number of conditions. Now, one condition is that Sri Lanka should abolish PTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act.
Yeah.
So, like that number
But along with that is the right for suspects to have legal advice soon after their arrest.
Yeah, access to
legal lawyers. Now, they were trying to take that right away. The Minister of Justice was trying to take that away. That's very worrying.
No, actually, in fact, I asked Minister Vijaydas Rajapaksa about this matter, and he strongly defended that decision.
Really? Why?
Yes.
What are you frightened about? If you have a lawyer present and you're guilty as hell, then you shouldn't be concerned whether the suspect is given a lawyer or not. It's more transparent to have a lawyer.
For us, the minister's position was that the society, the civil society, the international community tend to look at this issue from the suspect's point of view. And he was looking at this issue from the point of view of the victim.
You're a cricket lover, aren't you?
I watch cricket.
Okay. Well, in cricket, the benefit of the doubt is always given to the batsman. In this case, there's no harm in giving the benefit of the doubt to the suspect, because after all, his whole life or her life can be forever and a day affected. So no stone should be unturned. Well, what is so draconian about having the suspect to have access to a lawyer? In Britain, it's almost a given. The minute you're arrested, you have access to a legal team. And if you can't afford it, the government have a legal aid scheme.
Sure.
And here we do everything, the Prime Minister, for example, is quick to talk about Westminster-style politics. There's no Westminster-style politics in certain things. It's a partial application of democracy. Tell me, I'm really curious about this right to access legal a lawyer soon after arrest.
For us, I think that proposal made by the Justice Minister was shot down by the Cabinet.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, then in that case, they did.
And there was a lot of opposition to that proposal. And
within these provisions, isn't it also true that the replacement to the PTA has got some issues that will affect the media?
For us, the Tamil National Alliance strongly oppose the law. I spoke to Honorable Sumandiran, and the TNA is not agreeable to the proposal, the recommendations made in connection with this.
Right.
So there's no agreement on the replacement law also. So it's a huge issue, because although we have defeated the LTT, there's peace in this country, certain security measures have to be taken, laws maintained to prevent terrorism. But at the same time, I think the political party, the civil society have a right to take up these issues and try to ensure the rights of the people of this country.
What about India? What about agreements with India? Are these good things, or should it be a question of caveat emptor or buyer beware?
What do you mean by agreements with India?
We are forging ahead with a lot of, we are encouraging Indian investments no end. The ETA is on its way. Our closeness to India seems at times to be at odds with our almost fondness to do business with China. And as you know, China has this 900 billion Silk Route project all over the world. It's spreading several years. In all that context, whatever said and done, and this is a fact that we don't have to debate. Chinese money has poured into this country, into all sorts of projects. The road networks, wherever you look, it's Chinese money. So, along with that, then you have these agreements with India to redo Trinco and so on.
For us, we must remember that since 1980s, that China supplied weapons to this country, right? India requested Western powers and other countries not to sell weapons to Sri Lanka. So China is one of the few countries which supplied arms, ammunition, aircraft, armored personnel.
Yes, China's help was very overt.
Yes.
But India's help was more covert.
No, I mean, India started terrorism in this country for us, right? But of course, during President Rajapaksa's time, India helped.
But also, India voted against us at the UN. That was a bit naughty.
Twice they voted. Now, see, it's a funny situation. The country which sponsored terrorism here, in Geneva, they vote against this country, vote against us for defeating the LTT, right? Whatever the reasons of atrocities, allegations against the Sri Lankan army, right? So it's a situation we have to deal with. That's why the former president had to go and meet Modi, right? Now, no one expected, and especially after MP Vimalveer once urged people to put up black flags to protest Modi's arrival in Colombo. The former president, the former secretary defense, and the former foreign minister, Professor Pires, they met Modi.
There's one viewer who's quite aghast that Emma is being almost described as a benevolent leader, and our viewer was taking issue about that and saying that Emma was not a benevolent leader, but he was a dictator, and that there's plenty of evidence of his treatment of various matters. Was he really a dictator?
No, certainly not. But the former president.
But there were lots of excesses.
Certainly.
He turned a blind eye.
Now,
and I'm not talking because I'm from that community, but Alut Gama and all that, Beruela, completely unacceptable. And he was the one person who had the mandate to have changed and made a real difference to the issues of the North and so on.
For us,
but he didn't do it.
For us, there's no doubt the former president took wrong decisions. Now, 18th Amendment is one.
Yeah.
But don't forget, most of the people who are in this parliament...
But he was very dictatorial, wasn't he? I mean, I remember him calling Lasantha Wickrematunge and telling him what he would do to him, because he hadn't actually written anything on that particular occasion.
But
there was some story about his wife going to a temple where non-Buddhists and people who are not of the Hindu faith or the Buddhism faith should have gone in, and that they had to wash the whole temple with milk and so on and so forth. But he didn't actually write the story. He wrote it after he was told off.
But for us, Lasantha was in touch with the former president regularly.
Well, yes, but that's what I mean. We are in touch with all sorts of politicians.
Yes. So,
but we don't. We must call a spade a spade.
Yes, I mean, now, as an example, I can tell you, I personally did a story how former president on the International Women's Day, released the wife of former Minister Milroy Fernando. Now, Milroy Fernando had an affair with a woman, and the wife got Minister Security to kill her.
Right.
As she was given a long sentence. And on the day of the International Women's Day, the former president pardoned her. Right? That was wrong. And the Island carried the story on page 1. Right?
It was also wrong for him to lock up the best army commander in the world.
I do agree with you. I do agree with you.
All for the sake of not declaring that his son-in-law was one of the bidders on the supply of some D-cells. Anyway, that's another story. But, well, it's not another story, but it's a story that's been well told. But tell us, Shaminder, in the present context, what about this winds of change? Now, we had a long list of requirements that the European Union, the EU, wanted us to put into place. And now we've got GSP Plus, but we haven't actually fulfilled those conditions. We are seemingly on the way, but we haven't done it. Does this mean that now that we've got it, that list is going to be ignored?
For us, it's like this. I mean, as far as Sri Lanka plays ball with EU, right? Remember, European Union, the United States, India, Japan, and South Korea, Vietnam, they work together. That's one big team, right? Things have changed over the past 10 years. India is America's main ally in the region, right? So it's a team. Japan also work together. So we must realize, if they feel that Sri Lanka's political leadership is cooperating and towing their line, even if we do not implement these regulations or demands, whatever, nothing will happen.
We had, there's intense speculation. The Daily Mirror says President Maithripala Sirisena had stopped all cabinet meetings until a cabinet reshuffle, according to Daily Mirror sources. And there is, you can't miss it. Everybody's talking about the so-called reshuffle. Have you had any information about it?
For us, I mean, what are they going to achieve by reshuffling this government? I mean, the cabinet of ministers. So, I mean, if they want to reshuffle, there must be a consensus between the president and the prime minister.
Because it's when a unity government.
Yes, unity government. So,
right.
Without all of them agree.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we must also take into consideration that there are other political parties. The Sri Lanka Muslim Congress.
Right.
They also have portfolio.
Right.
So, you cannot simply, one person or one political party cannot decide on these changes. Right. And
so it's much more difficult than when it's just one party.
Yes.
And one leader.
One leader. So it's it has to be through negotiations. But I must tell you one thing for us, that these people have failed. Right. So by just switching ministers will not help this country, right? Because they have, now see, all the ministers, whatever the shortcoming, they have already taken.
But there is collective responsibility. So at cabinet. So if the Minister of Finance,
if there's collective responsibility, please tell me who is responsible for the central bank bonds. If there's responsibility, right? Of course, the president appointed a commission.
Yeah.
1 year after, long.
Well, he tried to to do it straight away.
Yes.
But he was overcome by his almost very insistent prime minister.
And if they did not dissolve the parliament to pave the way for parliamentary elections in August 2050, right? This could have been tackled a long time ago, because the Yahapalan administration prevented former MP Diogunasekara from presenting his report.
From your studying of the entire matter, should the Prime Minister resign over the bond issue?
No. I don't think so.
Why not? He's the minister in charge of the central bank.
No, I mean, of course, the bank for certain. Now see, for
But why
certain
shouldn't
matters.
he resign?
No, he should not.
Why not? He asked the governor of the central bank then, his friend, Mr. Mahendran, says that he only followed the instructions of the Prime Minister.
It's the responsibility of the person who carries out the order. You simply cannot say for us that just because X.
So why should you have a minister sitting there overlooking? You can't. The buck must stop somewhere.
For us in this country, nobody. Right?
There's no buck.
No, nobody resides in this country for us. Right? I mean, I can give you so many examples. Then don't expect just one person to resign on this matter. But they must take action, tangible action to recover the money.
Do you think that'll ever happen?
It will be a very difficult thing, but they will have to, because the President's Commission will have to hand over the report within the next 2 months, I think.
So they got an extension.
Yes, so with that they'll have to finish it by September, right? So then they'll have to act. They cannot postpone action on this matter. One matter for us.
So, more than resignations, we should focus on getting this money back.
It's the most important thing.
And what news? We have this FCID. I'm just going through some current issues with you.
Yes.
The FCID were told several weeks ago that the files pertaining to national procurement, the investigation started on that. Those files should be sent to the National Procurement Commission. That's on the one side, even though the National Procurement Commission only came into being after the 19th Amendment. So it's kind of backdated action here. Then we're told that the FCID will be sending the files on stock exchange investigations to the SEC, where we already know that the SEC haven't even been able to deliver and re-look at the investigations into, I think, 12 files. We had Mr. Tilak Karuratne, SEC chief, come here on this program and tell us twice that he'd give him time. Nothing's happened to those 12. Now they're going to handle 40-odd files. Then we have an instance where a British court is trying to enforce a judgment, a bankruptcy judgment in this country, again connected to the stock exchange, and they don't seem to be getting anywhere. And all this is because the SEC and others aren't playing ball. Maybe they don't have the time to look into all these things. So it appears that the FCID has served whatever. It was obviously a political tool, and now that political agenda has been more or less achieved, the FCID might as well be renamed the Rajapaksa Investigation Department, because what other files are there? And where they say 35 cases gone to AG's department not doing anything, same story. What's your take on this?
So, I mean, for us, their promise was, the primary allegation was that the former president had over 18 billion US dollars in overseas accounts. So, now it's 2017 May. So have they recovered any money? Have they obtained any information pertaining to those funds maintained by the former president and his sons or brothers? So nothing. Just tell me.
So perhaps the new finance minister, whoever it is, if the reshuffle happens, can have a look at it.
For us, they were in the same government. You know, they made a lot of allegations against former president and his family. So they must prove the allegations. Or
they must just get on with life.
But I must tell you, their failure to prove allegations made against the
former regime
does not mean no robbery took place. There was a lot of corruption, right?
So do you think there's a deal going on?
It's not a deal for us, for some reason. I mean, either
political realities.
Political realities, maybe.
So political realities.
Because if you go through court reports put out by the parliament, most of the people in the current parliament, they'll be out of office. They'll have to go to prison. Right?
So that is why there is no commitment to address corruption.
You don't need any FCID or CID. Just go through COPE report, publish them. You will realize how these people have played out.
Shabindra Ferdinando, been nice having you on the program this morning. And that's it on the 15th of May 2017 from Newsline. Take care. God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.